Announcing the arrival of the chairperson, Majlis Professor University, and the speaker for Syarahan Perdana Series 2 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Lagu Bangsa Johor and Negaraku. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, to initiate our event, we would like to invite Ustaz Muhammad Shahir bin Abdul Muttalib of Islamic Center, UTHM, to lead the recitation of dua. Please welcome.
النبي الكريم مصطفى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله الكرام. الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين، حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيده. يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. Allahumma ya Allah, dengan hati yang penuh khusyuk dan tawaduk, kami bersyukur kepadamu ya Allah dengan keizinan dan kurniaan-Mu. Maka dapatlah kami berhimpun pada pagi yang mulia ini bersempena Majlis Syarahan Perdana Siri kedua 2024 Universiti Tun Hussein On Malaysia. Semoga majlis ini memperoleh hamparan ilmu dan petunjuk, keredaan dan taufik serta keberkatan daripada-Mu jua ya Allah. Allahumma ya akramal akramin, ya Allah berikanlah kepada kami ilmu yang bermanfaat, keselamatan dan perlindungan kepada kami, juga keselamatan buat seluruh kaum keluarga kami. Jauhkanlah kami dari perasaan resah gelisah, gangguan kesihatan dan tidak fokus terhadap kerjaya kami dan tidak selesa. Kukuhkanlah keimanan dan keyakinan serta peliharalah kami dengan dipermudahkan segala urusan pekerjaan dan hidup kami serta keselamatan zahir dan batin. Ya Allah, Ya Rahim, ampunkanlah dosa-dosa kami, dosa kedua ibu bapa kami, pasangan hidup kami, anak-anak kami, kaum keluarga kami, guru-guru kami, sahabat-sahabat kami, serta sekalian mukminin mukminat, muslimin muslimat, di mana sahaja mereka berada, sama ada yang masih hidup ataupun yang telah meninggal dunia. Allahumma ya Hannan ya Mannan ya Badi'as samawati wal ard ya Zal Jalali wal Ikram. Kami juga memohon kepadamu ya Allah, dengan keberkatan majlis ini, kau peliharalah kami dari segala mara bahaya, penyakit dan perasaan duka nestapa. Terimalah segala amal soleh yang kami lakukan dan ampunkanlah dosa-dosa kami di dunia dan di akhirat. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا إن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين تقبل الله منكم.
Thank you, Ustaz. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning. The Honorable Professor Teknologi Dr. Hajah Roziati binti Ibrahim, Chairperson of Majlis Professor University. The Honorable Professor Insinyur Dr. Chee Ming, Fakulti of Engineering Teknologi, UTHM. Insinyur Teknologis Dr. Kamaruzzaman bin Musa, Head of Department of Civil Engineering Technology, Faculty of Engineering Technology, UTHM, distinguished guests, members of Majlis Professor University, senior officers, academicians, ladies and gentlemen. Alhamdulillah, all praises and thanks to Allah with His guidance and blessing, we are here at Big Stage PTTA for the second series of Syarahan Perdana 2024 by one of the members of Majlis Professor University, UTHM. Ladies and gentlemen, without a further delay, we would like to invite Insinyur Teknologis Dr. Kamaruzzaman bin Musa, Head of Department of Civil Engineering Technology, Faculty of Engineering Technology, to introduce, and later we'll invite our honorable speaker for today, Professor Insinyur Dr. Chee Ming, to give her lecture. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. I'm honored to introduce our distinguished speaker for today's talk series, Professor Insinyur Dr. Chee Ming. Professor Insinyur Dr. Chee Ming is currently a professor at the Department of Civil Engineering Technology, Fakulti of Engineering Technology, University Tun Hussein On, Malaysia, UTHM. She received her diploma in civil engineering from Polytechnic Port Dickson in 1998. Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Institute Teknologi Tun Hussein On, ITO, UTM in 2001. PhD in Geotechnical Engineering from Sheffield, UK in 2006. And postdoctoral scholar at Port and Airport Research Institute, Paris, Japan, 2009. She is also a chartered engineer from UK and professional engineer from Malaysia. Dr. Chan is member to several key societies relevant to her profession, namely International Society of Soil Mechanics and Geotechnical Engineering, ISSMGE, Southeast Asia Geotechnical Society, SEAGS, International Geosynthetic Society, Malaysian Chapter MyIGS, Board of Engineer Malaysia, BEM, Institution of Engineer Malaysia, IEM, Society of Engineering Education Malaysia, ISEEM, and Geological Society of Malaysia, GSM. She is also serving as the Secretary of MyIGS since 2018, facilitating the coordination of engagement between industry and universities, particularly in the field of geosynthetics applications. In addition, she has authored over 150 technical papers, including entries in seminars, conferences, and journals, as well as a handful of teaching modules, technical and non-technical books. Her research interests have always revolved around sustainable geotechniques, with innovation to make poor quality soils into usable material. Her research effort in this direction has received recognition with the awards of several grants worth over 150,000 USD from various national agencies and the industry. Dr. Chan is also appointed as accreditation panelist for civil engineering and geotechnical engineering by the Malaysian Qualification Agency, MQA, and Engineering Technology Accreditation Council, ETAC, from the Board of Engineer Malaysia, BEM. Besides, she is regularly consulted on academic program developments, reviews, and revisions, including serving on the academic advisory boards of some polytechnics. Her close working relationships with the industry has enabled insight for continuous improvement of the engineering and engineering technology programs, with closing of the university industry gap via better engagement, feedback, and improvements. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's extend a warm welcome to Professor Senior Dr. Chee Ming. We eagerly anticipate her enlightening thoughts on Ashes to Ashes, Earth to Earth, a soil story. Prof. Senior Dr. Chee Ming, the stage is yours.
Thank you. All right. Can you hear me? Hello. Hi. Right. Salam and a very good morning to all. First and foremost, thank you very much to my head of department, Dr. Aman, for the kind introduction. Much of it I do not deserve actually, but I actually wrote that CV myself, but so a bit. Anyhow, again, thank you very much for being here. And especially from friends and colleagues and teachers from outside the university, and my friends and colleagues and from within the university, my students and all. Not forgetting the technical team, Siva and all, who have been working very hard since yesterday to put together this event. Then I realized that it is never easy to come to organize an event like this. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here. So without further ado, let's begin. I was informed by Prof. Yati that I have 1 hour to share my story with you. So, I prepared a lecture that will last you through dinner tomorrow. So I do apologize first about that. Nonetheless, let's see. Let's hope it's not that bad. So let's roll. Okay, first and foremost, I would like to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to my late Pa, who passed away on the Christmas Eve just last year. So without whom and my mom, I wouldn't be here today. So I believe my mom is watching me on YouTube. And my family, so hi, and thank you for being here. So yeah, that is me. I was informed that just a minute, yeah. That's what happens. It doesn't work on the day of. So it's okay. If you just excuse me, I actually have one more in my bag. Seriously. Everything that can go wrong is going wrong now. So. No, it's not a good one. I took it out yesterday. Now where did I put it now? Ta-da. Okay. And I can barely see. That is actually me. If I believe what my parents told me, I was 1 year old. If you look carefully, there was a big scar on my forehead. Apparently, when I was 1, I was running after some, I don't know what, and I fell before my father could catch me. So, and I think he was trying to keep me from crying. So we were standing next to some, I don't know, big mangoes in my grandparents' place. So maybe that's why I grew up liking mangoes. I'm not very sure. Anyhow, so just a big thank you to my parents for making me who I am. And well, no time is a good time for lecture. Like I always tell students and whoever who is willing to sit down and listen to me. However, I still hope that it's going to be like this for my friends and colleagues here, and also for those who are online. And at least I hope I could hold your attention. And if you could be interrupted, all the more better throughout the whole lecture, so that it won't be so unbearable. That's what I can hope for. So, thank you. All right, just a quick one. They always say we have to start with the code. So I don't have a code. I searched for an hour or so. So I found this, which is a bit worrying. Who is a professor? So a professor is supposedly someone who got into university but never get out. And I'm really, literally never got out. I was an ex-student of Ito UTM, the second last batch of student before Ito broke off from UTM and became the Ito under Dato Ismail at the time. And I never left until today. So I think that is a bit worrying. If you think that is not worrying now, the second definition that I found from Oxford Languages is that to profess is simply meaning that to feel or to claim that I know something, but actually I don't. So that is even scarier. I can understand if you want to pack your bag and leave now, after keeping you here for about 40 minutes waiting. I'm so sorry for the disappointment, but I believe that the secretary have locked down all the gates, so you're still stuck here with me for a bit. So I'm truly sorry about it. So so many of that. Now, it was not in my original speech, honestly. So this is all jittery. Anyhow, I hope you stick around. Just listen to me blabbering away. I don't mind you playing the phone, but if you could, please don't. Okie dokie. So I shall take you through, allow me to take you through 5 parts of this session that we have. So from beginning of the formation of the earth, and why is it from ashes? Literally, it's from ashes, actually. And next, let's try to see how we can actually bring some of these soils back from the sea to the land. And in order to do that, we are looking into a specific soil. Actually, it's called the dredged marine sediments, whom, with the courtesy and help of Marine Department of Malaysia, that for the past decade or so, I just realized it's been so long, we could access the dredged sites throughout Malaysia to retrieve the samples for characterization and study, so that we could one day not dump this soil back to the sea again and cause more trouble, as we will talk about later. And then we could move on to a resurrection of this soil. So instead of dumping them and throwing them off like some useless waste, we could actually look into reviving them into reusable materials. And then last but not least, and again, it's not least, the saga continues, where I will take you on to probably tomorrow night, about the story of the soil. So still with me? Good, cool, okay. All right. So here's the beginning. If you look at the geologic time, when we talk about soils, then we need to talk about the origin of it. Where did this soil come from? So in order to understand where soil comes from, then we need to understand what Earth is all about. So in order to understand what Earth is all about, we need to understand about the geological timeline. So we look at this almost like a calendar of the Earth from the day it was born. it's been a pretty long time. Anyone knows how long it has been around this earth? I brought my pet here. He's called T-Rex. You see here? Oh, tak nampak eh? Okay. Oh. So one of my favorite model is a presumably to-scale model of T-Rex. By the way, T-Rex stands for Tyrannosaurus Rex. Literally, it means a tyrant lizard. Not very cool. So they added the name Rex at the back to mean king. So it's a tyrant lizard crowned the king. So not a very nice chap. But anyhow, you're not going to get this from me. But if you could answer the question, you could have a super duper cool T-Rex pin. Okay. So anyone? Well, it is not quiz night. You should stay here. He likes the limelight, so oh no. Okay. Please don't be distracted by that thing. Right, so let's give some options, right? We like options is a multiple choice question. So how old is the Earth? How old is the Earth, right? So A, 4.5 billion years old. B, 3.5 billion years old. C, 2.5 billion years old. And D, obviously, none of the above. So anyone? There's a super duper T-Rex pin. Did I see Dr. Anna raising the hand? Yes, Dr. Anna. A, congratulations. Yes, it's 4.5 billion years old. Dr. Anna, would you like to come and receive the pin? And not the T-Rex? It is a T-Rex. Bukan cicak, ya? Sienna, thank you. Thank you for the body warmth. This is like 0 degrees now. Right, so now we shall see when was the birth of the T-Rex. Not so soon, actually. So we take a look at this geologic timeline. See that 4.5 billion years ago, the Earth was formed. So how do we know it was formed? Because we found rocks and did carbon dating and know that the oldest minerals that we could find were actually dated 4.1 billion years ago. Some say 4.6, but roughly it's about that. When you're talking about billions of years, 0.5, 0.1 doesn't mean anything, I suppose. And at the beginning, Earth has very simple life forms, algae, bacteria, so they've been around for quite a while. And then we move on to a more conducive situation. We go on to the Paleozoic time. This is the most exciting time because this is when the animal kingdom rose. So we started to have our the ancestor animals, if you like. We started to have the spiders, the scorpions, and the centipedes. Yeah, you're right. Those nasty fellas came out first. And then they thrived until today. Of course, they're a lot smaller today than before. For example, we used to have dragonflies that are like 1 meter wingspan apart. Dragonflies, 1 meter. Imagine that. Super cool. So what is so cool about dragonfly? They can't fold their wings. You realize that? They can't fold their wings, so they're super. Anyhow, we go through the Paleozoic time, and this is the time when kind of Carboniferous, as the name would tell us, we start to have plants coming old. So one of the first plants that grew on Earth were actually the ferns, the fern leaves. And one of the oldest plants around are those that we see in Ice Age, the little squirrel chasing after a thing, a pine cone. A pine tree has been around for 300 million years. 300 million years, can we even imagine that? It's like this. Every time we look at a piece of rock, it is far, far older than us, any one of us. So I think that will give us a clue of how old the Earth is and how God has made Earth ready for us human beings before we were even here. All right? And then this is also a time where, as I mentioned to you, the animal kingdom started to rise. So when it rose, obviously, as we all know, it started in the sea, in the waters. And one of the most exciting animals that was created at the time and then lasted to today are the sharks. Amazing sharks. It's just that the first sharks were not like what we see. They are nothing like what we see today. They are the super cool armor-plated ones. So there are this exoskeleton outside their body. Can you just imagine? You can Google them. Oh, super cool. Cooler than Mac. Okay, Mac is just all cartilaginous size. And then today, they lose the plates, lose the armor, they have scales. And even with the scales, we do know that the sharks have scales that are super ergonomic. And we make swimsuits that could actually mimic the skin or the scales of the shark so you can swim super fast. Cool. I said, is this a bio class or a soil class? I'm so sorry, got carried away about this. So I assure you it's still a soil class. This is just the opening. So still with me, thank you. And at the end of this Paleozoic time, that is coming to about 280, 300 million years ago, something unimaginable actually happened. While I repeat myself for the third time, while the animals rose, by the end of the Paleozoic time, 95% of the marine species died out. And that's equivalent to half of the families of the animals. So something big must be coming for that to be wiped out, because that is the dawn of the dinosaur coming to the Mesozoic time. And it's why you can see these three periods coming here: Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous. You are right. The Jurassic film franchise did not coin the name out of nothing at all. Jurassic period was a time where the dinosaurs dominated the Earth. So when we say dominated, literally it dominated, because at that time, Earth was just one piece. There was only one continent. They call it the supercontinent, the Pangaea, meaning that you could be walking from Africa to Asia to Europe. You can just walk. That was how human beings fanned out, actually, because the first human remains verified today is actually coming out from Africa. So that is not surprising, right? And if we trace back to the oldest religion traditions, we'll see that the first human being came down or was introduced to Earth somewhere in the Arab Peninsula African region. So it makes a lot of sense, actually, while we do not have hard evidence to date. And so the dinosaurs came, and all sorts. Among them were these T-Rex, not one of the biggest, one of the strongest, and one of the scariest around. And when the dinosaurs came to the end of time, that was like 65 million years ago. So when you come to 65 million years ago, it is almost coming to the modern day now. So coming to the end of it, where did the dinosaurs go? They have to go. They had to go. If they don't go, we can't exist. We can't possibly exist. We'll be stomping around. We'll be dead by then. So in a way, think about it, they had to be here because they had to die and they had to form the fossil fuel for us. So this is how amazing our Creator is to have prepared the earth for us. And to come to think of it, I hope I'm not committing blasphemy here. It has nothing to, it's not refuting or contradicting with the divine timeline. As I think we were just discussing in the room upstairs, that a day, a minute, a second that we see in dunya is like nothing, like a blink of an eye probably in heavens. So that is possible. So if God created earth in 6 days and man on the 7th day, it makes a lot of sense here. Just that in our very limited perception, we can't quite fathom such a fact. So with the dawn of the Cenozoic time, where the dinosaurs were literally wiped out, there are some theories about it. Some say that it could be one big asteroid hitting Earth, spewing up all the ashes and all the dust, closing out the atmosphere. The sunlight couldn't come in, so the life forms all died out. And so we had the fossil fuel we have today. And some say there was a plague coming along, and some also mention that it could be because of climatic change, which is actually a geological cycle. That is why today there are some people, some scientists, or rather some people rather, who champion the idea that climate change is not because of our doing. It's a natural cycle where we see ice age and then we're hot time and all. It's the way that the earth rejuvenates itself. Only God knows, I suppose. We don't know. We don't live long enough to want to witness that. So when it comes to that, we start to have men coming in. How old do you think men have existed on Earth? There's no prize for this, sorry. How long do you think that a man has arrived on Earth in man's geologic time? 4.5 billion years ago in our counting for Earth to be formed. When? Very, very late, but when was the first man? Scientifically found, but nobody can say whether that is really us or not. They look a bit different from us. I'll give you a clue. Today it's still called the Homo habilis, the handyman, because apparently we like to define, historians define human beings as those who can use their hands, very much TVET, yeah, Dato, can use their hands to make tools, to make things, right? So these are called the handyman, the Homo habilis. So they came around, the oldest fossil of them, or the oldest remains of them were found, dated 2.4 million years ago. But then again, I just read in National Geographic just last year, December, it is refuted now. It was found that Homo habilis does not have the skull, the skeletal structure like us. They are more like apes, and we do not like to be associated with apes. So again, maybe tomorrow we hear a new theory of who our real ancestors were. Maybe it's true. Maybe it is, we were born as we were. We never changed. We just became slightly smaller to adapt the situation, maybe. Okie dokie. So imagine that was 20 minutes for one slide. There's 100 slides here. Good luck with that. Right, so if you could allow me to go through with you about the Earth as a structure itself. I'm so sorry to use that word. I'm from civil engineering background. I cannot help it. The terms I use tend to be associated with my field. I do apologize if it is not quite agreeable to you. So in order to understand Earth, there are two things. One, the structure. So as you can see here, I like to tell my students that the Earth is an egg. There's an eggshell, there's a crust, which is very thin, and then you have the egg white, which are the mantle. Simply put, they are just molten lava or melted rocks, and they are pretty deep. And then these are semi-liquid, right? Super stiff, liquid form rocks. They are red, we all know that, yeah. And then at the center of it, we have the core. And in fact, the core of the Earth, what we would like to think of as the egg yolk, has got an outer core and inner core. So let's take a look at the cross-section of it. So this is how it will look like if we just try to put some numbers into the cross-section of the Earth. We'll see that what we see, the highest point on Earth is Mount Everest, 8,848 meters high. And congratulations and well done to the lady climbers of UTHM who scaled the mountain and made it to the Book of Records of Malaysia last year to make the peak of Everest. Is just about 8,900 meters from the sea level. The deepest point in the ocean is at the edge of Mariana Trench. We all know that Mariana Trench is the deepest place, deepest point, or rather deepest part of the ocean, which is a valley in the ocean. That measures about 12.5 kilometers. That is nothing. The crust of the Earth is 100 kilometers thick. We say it's like the eggshell, yet it is still 100 kilometers. Can we imagine 100 kilometers? Okay, let's think of this way. Who do the deepest digging around on Earth? The oil rigs, right? The oil rigs. So it's true, in the ocean they drill, and on land they do fracking, right? So we think that fracking is super duper, right? They can go very deep. The deepest fracking depth that was reached was just 4 kilometers. 4. And already we claim we are amazing. In the oceans in general, like what Petronas is doing out there, offshore in Terengganu and so on, we go usually like a half a kilometer or up to about 2 kilometers max. Rarely we go to anything more than that. So imagine that we are just really, literally, not figuratively, literally, we are scratching the surface. So that is about the crust. And below that crust, below that eggshell, are those egg white. Those are the molten lava, we call them the mantle. And this mantle goes about 3,000 meters deep. Unimaginable, right? By the way, this is a cross-section, so this is just a radius of the Earth. There's another half at the bottom of it. So super cool where we are living on here. And right in the center of it, there's an egg yolk, there's a core. The core is a nuclear reactor. It's hot, it's very hot. How hot is it? It's 6,000 centigrade. What is 6,000 centigrade? It is just about 10% hotter than the sun. I repeat myself, the core of the Earth is 6,000 centigrade. It is about 10% hotter than the surface of the sun. Unimaginable. And that core, that nuclear reactor, is the one that keeps us in place, keeps us not flying all over the place. It gives the Earth its magnetic field, and to keep our atmosphere in place. That is why it's livable. That is why the planet was made for us. Next door, you have Venus, right? That is closer to the sun. Super hot, 500 centigrade on an average day. You wouldn't want to be there. You'll be fried. You don't want to be living next door, Mars. Mars is super cold. On a good day, you are talking about minus 90. We really don't want to be there. So while we are exploring possible life forms or possible way of living in the nearby planets, even talking about our moon, it is still a far, far thing away, in fact, unless we can find ways of creating this atmosphere, protecting us from the solar radiation and things like that. So that is the Earth structure. The second important thing we need to know about the Earth are the tectonic plates. So this sounds a little bit cool. It's like tectonic, what is that? Wow. Anyhow, it is just telling us that this Earth crust, remember the eggshell, it is not perfect. It has got fault lines on it, and they are basically separated into big chunks. So there are 7 big chunks of these plates on Earth. The 7 major ones, and there are 10 or so minor ones. So the 7 main ones are the ones that you see here. Probably the more famous ones that we know of are the Pacific Plate, North American, and the Eurasian Plate. Yeah, right, Eurasian. So we are tie up the plate that is sitting underneath Europe, right up to Asia, including Earth, is actually the Eurasian Plate. So just to give an idea of if these plates, they are like cracked portions of the eggshell, they must be unstable, they must be moving. So they are moving very sluggishly. On average, they move about 1.5 centimeters per year. 1.5. You can barely think of that, 1.5, right? But this 1.5 moving over a time period of, say, 5 million years, we are talking about separating, for example, London and New York by a flight time of extra 30 to 40 minutes if the aviation industry does not improve in, say, 5 million years' time. You get what I mean? If you take a flight these days, 747, between New York and London, it will take you about 7.5 hours, all right? So saying that the speed of aeroplanes does not improve over the next 5 million years, this drift between the two plates, that is the American plate and the Eurasian plate, will cause London and New York to separate further, so that it will take about extra 30, 40 minutes to fly between the two capitals. That is the kind of numbers we are looking at. Of course, it is not just about going apart, away from each other. They could be coming together as well, which is more amazing. We will look at it later on. So the thing that is of concern to us here is the Pacific Plate. So what is so great about this Pacific Plate? It is where the Ring of Fire is seated. So you probably heard of this Ring of Fire before, and this will explain why most of the major earthquakes and volcanic activities that has happened in the past decades or so are all in this region. So you can see here, what we are looking at is that these Pacific plates, there are many plates, but the major one is the one that is underlying the Pacific Ocean, and is stretched all the way from the west coast of America to the east coast of Japan, and touching almost all of Indonesia. All of Indonesia. And in fact, if you look at Japan's earthquake map, almost the whole of Japan is covered with red dots. Every single point could be an epicenter. So that is how active it is. And this Pacific Ring of Fire, if you sit on it or you sit near it, then you are at risk of having the most catastrophic and violent earthquakes or volcanic activities. So what should happen here is that when these tectonic plates come together, they clash. So when two things clash, someone has to give. So the one that gives is going down. So the one that's going down is going to subduction. So that subduction means taking the plates into the ocean, deep into the ocean. And when that happens, it's like popping pimples on the surface of the Earth. Many chains of chains of volcanoes are formed. And these are the places where 90% of the world's most horrific earthquakes actually happen. So I think now we can relate and see why a lot of these earthquakes that we hear for the past 2 years, 3 years, 5 years are all around this region. So just to get a feel of what this means in terms of the active earthquake activities, just in 2020, within 3 days, 9 to the 12th of January, please allow me to tell the story. On the 9th of January, this I tried to Google out how to pronounce this, but I think I'm going to make a mess of it, so I'll just simplify and call it the Popo volcano in Mexico. So this Popo fella blasted its top and spewed lava, ash, and rocks 300 meters into the sky on the 9th of January. 2 days later, across the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, Japan's Mount Shintake blew. And it threw rocks that people observed. The crater was blown open and rocks were found to fly 3 kilometers into the sky. 1 day later, the Taal volcano in Philippines, the second most active volcanoes in Philippines, erupted. And rocks ashes were found to be thrown as far away as Metro Manila. I believe my friends, Dr. Alona, Dr. Hazel, are online. Metro Manila is located about 70 kilometers away from Taal. Can we imagine that? It's like from here, erupting, going to Pago. We find a rock in Pago, as scary as that. So imagine that. Okay, so that is talking about people who sit along this ring of fire. So what about us? So thank God we are not on the line. We are sitting next to it, right? Even that, we felt all the tremors. We felt all the aftershocks. We felt the effect of the tsunami. Remember? We felt the very damaging effect of the tsunami back in 2004, Boxing Day, right? Okay. So a little bit of technicality, so that when you go home today, you could be very cool telling the other people about this, how these plates actually move. So there are three main ways these plates actually move relative to each other. If you are moving apart from each other, we call them diverging. And when you diverge, then obviously you are going to form things that are like ridges in the ocean floor and in the deeper grounds of the earth. If you come together, like what we said about the ring of fire, the convergent type, then you come together, you clash, you collide, one must give, so you have subduction, you form trenches, especially in the seabed. Last but not least, if two plates are moving parallel to each other, like shearing each other, then we have the transform plate boundary, and these are the ones who form the fault lines, where we say the next time the earthquake comes, these are the ones that are going to be actively rubbing against each other and bring out all the damages that we see. So we can associate now, we have an earthquake, not necessarily we have a volcanic eruption. We have a volcanic eruption, almost certainly we have an earthquake. Cool? Yeah. Cool. Now, some actions into these volcanic activities. Right. Again, just to dramatize a little bit so that you wouldn't fall asleep, this is Anak Krakatoa. Everybody knows Krakatoa, but this is Anak Krakatoa, the baby, one of the many babies of Krakatoa. You have a chance to go to Merapi, right? The Merapi Museum in Java Island. Go and have a look at it. They show the satellite image of it. You can see that is Merapi. In the middle, there's so many offsprings of it around it. Any one of the babies erupt, we cannot stand it. So this is one example. Back in 2018, one of the babies of Krakatoa erupted. And this is a real movie taken, a real video taken by somebody fleeing the scene. At the end of this activity, 400 people were found dead. That's scary. Yep. By the way, you don't need to be touched by the lava to die. Just the heat will kill us. We don't need to be touched by the smoke to die. Just the ashes is enough to poison us. That bad. Nonetheless, nature is amazing. God is fair. When all is done, when the drama is over, the grounds are super fertile. Super fertile. So you can't have it all, I guess. Okie dokie. Very quickly, we look at the types of volcanoes so that the next time you go around the world and look at these mountains, you have an idea of, why do they look like this, especially those who are of volcanic origins. The first ones are the ones we call the composite ones. You can see they're very steep slopes, not a steep cone. This is because the lava has come out very quickly. These are really violent volcanoes. Lava are spilled out, and because they are so steep, right, of high concentration of the rocks and minerals, they flow out slowly, and they cool down. So they form this very steep cone, like the one at the top of the slides here. The second one is called the cinder type. So the cinder type are the ones that are throwing up mostly ashes. And because it's ashes, so these ashes are light. So they are just being deposited around the crater, and they are flatter. The last but not least, we are looking at the shield volcano. These are the ones that you can barely know there's a volcano there. Because they come out from little vents, you can barely see any crater mouth there, and they come out and they spread across a broad profile and form these rather flat mountain tops. So I promise you to show examples, right? The famous, sacred, beautiful, symmetrical Mount Fuji. It's a live volcano. It's so symmetrical. If you have a chance to go there and walk around the lake that is around the Mount Fuji, from every angle that you look, it's the same. On a good day, if the peak is not being covered by the clouds, from every angle you look, it's the same, right? What do you think that kind of volcano is? It's a composite, right? It's very steep, and you can see a typical cone there. The second one is a sunset crater. That is a famous cinder cone type of volcano. As you can see, it has a much wider diameter crater and a much flatter cone. Last but not least, I think this is scary because like the Mauna Kea, Mauna means mountain, in Hawaii, it's a live volcano. There are many live volcanoes in Hawaii anyway. And this is the one where you can see it is pretty flat because the lava has come out from many, many outlets. Slowly, gently. So it forms a very broad, gentle profile across the land. Over time, it builds up the height, the thickness of it, but you don't really see a cone or an obvious mountain ridge there. So this is how they will have looked like. And amazingly, these violent as they are, these catastrophic eruptions and volcanic activities, they do give us beautiful natural landforms eventually, like the fjords, the geyser, the glacier, and also not forgetting the ice sheets. So these terms that we see here, they are very much related with climate change, right? We hear about it, it's about climate change. So if we put aside climate change, because it's still arguable whether we did it or it's a natural process, the thing is that the ice sheets are the ones, or the icebergs up in the north and the north and south poles are the ones that provide us with a fresh water supply. So we need to be concerned about it. And if not because of these volcanic activities going on, because of tectonic plates moving relative to one another, we wouldn't have any of those. So think about it that way. It's like it gives some, it takes some. All right, just to keep you further entertained, in case you have fallen asleep, a short video. Forget about this. This is not so exciting. Look at the replay of it. Notice? Before anything, the dog perceived the vibration, perceived the danger first. Yeah? And then followed by man. So there it goes. By the way, just a quick sharing. When I was in Paris, back in 2009, was it? Yeah. When the Tohoku earthquake took place, it was over lunchtime, so you could see suddenly, because my research institute was situated next to the sea, so eating my lunch, looking at the sea, and suddenly there was a sudden withdrawal of the, if you want to say it's a low tide, it wasn't a low tide, it was suddenly the tide was going away. And you can literally see fishes jumping out of the water. Yeah, because it was noontime and the sun was shining bright, and the fish scale was reflecting, like so many fishes jumping out. The next thing, there was a vibration. And the next thing, there was this siren going on, asking us all to evacuate. So that was what happened. I was in Tokyo region, so I wasn't that much affected, just some shaking. The train services broke down. But in other parts of the northern parts of the country, it was pretty bad. Second video, if you're outdoor, equally scary, if not scarier, because there's nowhere to hide. So you see, we panic. What do? We go down low, and I think the best thing to do is that if we ever are caught in this situation, go to the middle of the road. Don't go anywhere near the buildings, because things will come off, even pots of plants and all, it can hit us, and people are known to die because of that. Right? If you're in the building, go under the table. Hopefully the beam doesn't come down and hit the table and we are gone. Hopefully not. Right? And this explains why Japanese school children have got very expensive school bags. Their school bags has got a hard bag. So they were taught when they enter school that if anything happens, when the jishin comes, the earthquake comes, you're supposed to raise your bag and cover your head and quickly run under the tables. So thank goodness we don't have that kind of drill in Malaysia, a blessed land, in fact. Okie dokie, earth, rocks. Make sense? Now we go to rocks. Okay, still with me? Okay, thank you. So to have rocks, then we need to, we already know that this lava has built out. So now we know the raw materials are already there. But why do we see different kinds of rocks around on Earth, right, strewn all over the place? So this is how they were formed. You have the igneous type, the sedimentary type, and the metamorphic type. And you can see there's a cycle. Eventually, they all come back and become another. But the material is always the same as a conservation of mass, I guess. Very quickly, the igneous type are the ones that is the most original rocks. They come out from the tummy of the Earth through these volcanic eruptions, and they are what they are. So if you call a piece of igneous rock, you're actually holding something from deep down, from inside the Earth. Amazing. Super amazing. So the next time, if you have to kick a piece of rock on the streets or whatsoever, think of it this way. It is so much older than any one of us. Super amazing. Super amazing. And then the second type are the sedimentary rocks. As the word, the term would tell us, sedimentary, so it's like a layer cake. It comes through lithification, simply a cool word that tells us that things are coming together, particles are coming together under pressure to form a new thing. So you can imagine if you are to have things, broken pieces of rocks, fragments of it being carried down by water, wind, glacier and all, and then they're being deposited. Surely they come layer by layer, right? It won't be a haphazard formation. So these are the sedimentary ones. So the typical feature of it, as later on we will see some examples, is that they have layering on them. Very obvious. Last but not least, the metamorphic. The name will tell us metamorphic. They undergo significant change until we can barely recognize them. Their parent rock would not have recognized them. So these are the ones who have been put through the fire, we'll say. They went through a lot of pressure. They went through a lot of heat, and they come out. Some become diamonds. If you're lucky, you become diamonds. If not, you are just another piece of rock, but still cool. All right? Some animations to keep you entertained of how they are formed. As you can see, the first one, for the igneous ones, it come out from the mantle bit, mantle part of the earth, springing out along the way, and then they leave these traces of it outside. Igneous rocks, you can have those that are embedded underground as well. That's why when engineers drill, we try to do piling and all, we hit rocks, right? Where do these rocks come from? These are how they are formed. They were remnants of these volcanic activities, actually. They were formed down there, so we couldn't see them. That's why we have bedrocks. Otherwise, there would be no bedrocks around. Next are the sedimentary ones. So obviously, it's a weathering agent that bring about these Junior distracting me. Right. These sedimentary ones are the ones that are brought about by the water and so on, can be wind and all, and they are being settled along the way, as we just talked about it just a minute ago. And last but not least, these are the ones that are metamorphic. You have to go through a lot of pressure and heat in order to transform chemically. Usually, you may lose some of your minerals, or you can have some new compounds being found. So these are the ones that are maybe a little bit difficult to characterize when it comes to it. So here you go. You probably look at this picture and say, yeah, I've seen this before. I had this. I even have one in my pocket. So yeah, this is how they look like. So just a quick one on how they can evolve. For instance, shale. We find a lot of these if you walk along the beach, right? A lot of these, you can pick them out. And if you pick them up, you can easily peel them out, layer by layer, right? Literally peel them out. But if you pick out a piece that you can't peel, they also look the same, don't they? It's a slate. These are the harder ones. The harder ones are metamorphic. They have come out from the deeper parts of the ocean floor. So that's how we can differentiate them. See? It's cool to know geology, right? To know about rocks. No, not cool? Okay, never mind. It's okay. I get it all the time in class, so I'm used to it. It's great. I literally had students, I was asking them, do you like this? Isn't it interesting? So I appreciate the honesty nonetheless. Okay, and just quick one. Last slide on these rocks, just to show us how strong these rocks are. When we make concrete, I apologize again because I'm from civil background, so I can only think of concrete, soil, and rocks, and soil and concrete again. They go backwards and forwards just there. Maybe a bit of water. I'm so sorry. So please allow me concrete. So when we talk about concrete, the engineer design a concrete, they say they are grade 40, grade 30, or whatsoever. So normally for a building, probably they are grade 40. Right? Grade 40 means that the concrete has gone through the compression test. It can take up to 40 MPa. Correct? Correct? When we're concrete friends, correct, good. So 40 MPa. So look at the rocks. 40 MPa, we are just talking about lumps broken by light hammer. We are talking about things that are pretty weak to medium weak. So how amazing these rocks are. Those especially that come out from the tummy of the earth, those igneous ones are very hard. That is why when we build roads, we see crusher runs, right? Those rocks that look like white, originally white, no. The background is white. There's speckles of black and gray. Those are the igneous rocks. Those are actually probably the best stuff around you can get to make roads because they are very hard. All right. Now only we enter the main theme of the talk today about the soils. Okay, cool. I can see some of you packing your bags. Azra, don't pack your bag. Please take out your nasi lemak and mee curry and eat. It's okay to keep yourself awake. Asam, but please. Maybe Ira Nasriza from all the way from Penang brought some jeruk. Pak Ali, you can get some from her. Okay, so these are about the soils now. We don't have to go through this. We all learn this in geography. The rocks, they look sturdy, stiff, hard, strong, but with weathering coming in, whether it's wind, whether it's rain, whether it's acid in the rain, acid in the water, maybe it's a little worm, maybe it's a little insect, maybe it's a tree falling down, maybe it's an animal eating it. Well, animals do eat rocks for strange, but true digestion purposes. Anyhow, oh, you fell. I apologize. I'm a little bit of an OCD. I cannot tolerate things that are out of place. I'm so sorry. So that's also something that my students tend to comment on in class. So I tend to arrange my marker pens and also, yeah. And probably my friends in the FTK, JTK especially can testify. Right. And so they break down and they become soil. As simple as that. That is why if you come to a hill or a mountain, you want to know, and you saw a lump of soil, you want to know what was the parent material, just look up and see the mountain. So you can see that's a parent material, just that they may be very different. The father and mother are black. How come the soil is red, for example? It doesn't mean that it has been transported or adopted, no. It's just that it has gone through some weathering processes and chemical processes that change the color. For instance, leaching going, oh, just a quick one, so that you can go away having known this, and you could tell other people and feel cool about it. Yeah, I keep saying that because I find soil pretty cool anyway. Right, we see a lot of these red soil around. We call them tanah merah. True, we do that. You renovate your house just last year, right? Yeah, you have a lot of these. My dear friend, Mr. Ting, he's a developer. I have not seen him for the past 20 years. So since our graduation in Polytechnic, thank you so much for coming. And these red soil are the ones that we like. We like the most for construction, right? Because they are sandy, they are silty, they have good mixture, everything good for compaction. Tuan Rasdizam, we'll be able to testify to that, our especially road builder here. Now, these soils, if you take them close to your nostril and try to take a whiff of it, you can smell what? You can smell rust. You can smell rust. You don't believe me? Put a bit of water on it, you can smell more rust. Okay? That goes on to tell us that it has what? It has a lot of ferrum in it. So our red soil, or what I call the tanah merah, range from what? Yellow to orange to light red to dark red to super red. Am I right? So it depends on how much of ferrum is that. My dear teacher, Prof. Tamizi, can testify and correct me on that. So he taught me that when I was in an undergraduate student here. Remember, I never left. So, okay, from an agricultural sense of view, these roots that the plants that we're looking at, nothing to do with civil engineering, but it's good to know because when civil engineers start to work on the site, first and foremost, we need to clear the grounds. So we need to know how deep we need to clear. Am I right, Dr. Anna? So I'm not a real engineer, so I got to verify my engineer friends just to make sure I'm not talking nonsense. Believe me, on the side note, I didn't gain the IR through the normal way. It was through academic route, so I'm still an academician through and through. Remember, I told you I never left the university. Oh, Puan Asbita told me not to say anymore. They'll revoke my IR sheet. Anyhow, here you go. We have these different zones when we profile the soil from an agriculture point of view. So the A zone, the B zone, and the C zone, in between you actually have the O and the E, so we don't want to talk about them because they confuse us. The A and the B and C is good enough. The A are the topsoil where you have the humus, you have the organic stuff, right? That's the ones that we always see these weeds and we try to scrape them away before we start to do anything. If we go a little bit deeper, like half a meter down, you start to touch the subsoil. That's a B soil. This is where most of the roots will be. All right, this is the part where a lot of nutrients are, the minerals are. That's why the plants love it. All right. If you go a little deeper, that is where if you try to do it manually, try to do some digging, you find it getting tougher because once you go beyond 1 meter of an original ground, you start to hit what? You hit the weathered rocks. Am I right? Those who have done a lot of gardening, you have known that. So we try to keep it above 1 meter, and that's about all that your plants will need. You don't go that deep anymore. Go any further? No, haven't reached the core of the earth. Not yet. Remember, it's 100 meters just the crust. This is just scratching the surface. Literally, you hit the rocks. Yeah. For the rocks, hitting the rocks, who likes it? The geotechnical engineers love it, right, Dr. Anna? We like to put our foundations, Mr. Chinbun, that we put our foundation there so that the buildings will not start to sink, like what happened to this campus many, many years ago. True? True. Dr. Ismail Prof. Tamizi can testify to that. So again, maybe we were put in the right place, right? Right place, right time to have experienced that, to have seen some of these amazing, well, kind of a little bit catastrophic occurrence of geotechnical failures in the university itself. That's why we have recess. So my friends from recess, Prof. Zaidi and all, thank you very much for coming today. the fun things that we had all undergone. Very quickly, some of the classification systems for soil. Well, you have a material, you want to use it in a very scientific manner and show that you know something about it, then they create this system. So different parts of the world will come up with their own systems, but generally these are the ones that we have, the Americans, the Japanese, the British. We were the ex-colony, we couldn't help it. We had the ex-British system. So if you look at the MS system, the Malaysian system, it is actually pretty much a duplicate of the British standards. And the British standards is actually the, if you like, the basis of the Euro codes. Some tweaking here and there. So these are the standards I refer to classify our soils. And I intentionally pull up this one, which is the USTA soil chart. USTA is actually the agriculture department of the states. Oh, there's a reason I pull this out because ever since I completed my study, more than once I've been asked by people, hey, look at this soil. Is it suitable for planting bananas? I have once received this. We were driving, we were on a road trip, passing by somewhere, and a colleague was saying, look, doctor, look at the soil. I want to buy a piece of land there. Do you think they will grow durian? I was thinking for 10 seconds. Oh, yeah. Oh, I understand now. Because my friends know that I learn soil. I said, what is your area? I do soil. So they thought that I learn about soil in the agriculture sense, but actually I don't. I know nothing about that. You get what I mean? So I'm not a soil doctor at all. I'm nothing, actually. I just play with soil, mix with something, and hope that it doesn't crumble. That's all. So, yeah. And so this is a chart that I pull out as intentionally because to celebrate the idea that people think I'm a soil doctor. At the top here, you can see the more clay fraction you have, then you have this dominant category of clay. Clay are the ones that are probably the most problematic, one of the most problematic in Malaysia, in anywhere else in the world. That's why we have recess. Betul, Dato' Maya. Yeah. This campus sits on amazingly old marine clay. You don't believe me? Just go to recess where the grounds were untouched. Take away the, what's that? Topsoil. Take away the subsoil. Dig a little bit. Within 2 meters, you can find ancient seashells. I did that. Prof. Tamizi did that. We did that in recess. We found them. The first time we found them, it was so exciting. We had to keep them in our pocket for days. I did that. I don't know about other people. And we go around showing everybody. So it's super old. This is a few 100,000 years old and all. So this place, but then if you taste the soil, it's no longer salty. The salt has leached away. So that's how amazing it is. This land originally was underwater. How cool that is. Cool. Super cool. And you will notice that our buildings are never too tall. F cup is what? Six stories? Right? 6 stories. 8, minus that tangki. This building, 5 stories. It was supposed to be taller. Am I right, Prof. Tamizi? It was supposed to be a much higher building. And then they cut it down because too much will be spent on the foundation itself just to sustain the size of the building. Dr. White can testify to that as well. G3 buildings and all, on how we have to control the height, the size of our buildings so that they don't have too much, there's not too much of settlement coming through, and we do not spend too much of the money trying to put in a strong foundation or to stabilize the ground down there. Just by the way, in case you're interested, a lot of the new buildings in the university were constructed using the PVD methods. Yeah. So we waited quite a bit looking at the big embankment there left for like 6 months or so, and everybody thought that we are going to have a hilly campus. But actually, no, it was just a surcharge. 6 months down the road, they removed that 3 meters surcharge and they built a building there. And our university remains pretty flat. The world is flat, remember? So we literally live up to that. Okie. So now we go to sea to land. It's only the second topic, my goodness. Prof. Ziati is already scratching her head. Okay, now we see how the soil, we got to the earth, the rocks, the soil. Good, cool. So now, how do this soil from the ground, from the land, how did they actually go to the sea? Erosion. All right, simple thing as erosion near the sea because of the wave actions. I showed this because I think this is more dramatic to see. See the exclamation. Oh, okay. Right. Of course, more inland, we have some gentle rivers and streams, and again, they still happen. We know that whenever there's a band on the outer side, we have the erosion going on. On the inner side, we have the sedimentation, right? So that's what happened. So these are the ones that bring the sediments, bring the soil all the way down to the river mouth and off into the ocean, okay? And it's nice if you just have soil going away, right? It is not so nice anymore when we start to develop along the rivers, which we like to do, and then we start to pollute it. So when these soils reach the ocean, they are no longer pure and clean. That's the problem. All right, that's the problem. So this is actually the basis of the story today. My goodness, we are barely half of the slides here. Right, so allow me now to talk to you a little bit about dredging. So I would like to take this opportunity to say a big, big thank you to the Marine Department of Malaysia, especially Tuan Haji Hafiz, whom I met in Yokohama when I was doing my postdoc there. And then our friendship just started from there. I came back to Malaysia, I never met him even once. It takes us to go a quarter distance away from Malaysia, around the globe as a quarter of the circumference of the earth, to meet in Yokohama, and then we never meet in Malaysia for the past 13 years. But we communicate over WhatsApp and phone and all, and because of the Jabatan Daud or Marine Department of Malaysia's permission and collaboration, we could access the dredge sites in Malaysia. From the north, Kuala Perlis and all, which is a bit in the controversy these days, to what we have in the East Coast and so on. All right. So quickly, I'll take you through the history of dredging, how they look like originally and how they look like today. I just told you earlier this year, there was a bit of controversy coming out about the Kuala Perlis dredging project. So Kuala Perlis is very critical for my friends who are from the north. You probably know that this is where we have ferries going out to Langkawi. Maybe Kuala Perlis is famous for the laksa belut. The laksa belut and our famous, what do you call that? The thing wrapped in leaves. Pulut panggang. Yeah, pulut panggang. Yep. So everybody knows that katsu, I remember now, katsu laksa. Yeah, that is very famous. Oh, without Kuala Perlis jetty, no Langkawi. Everybody need to fly. Of course, you can go from Kuala Kedah, but I understand from my northern friends from the northern side that Kuala Perlis is a more convenient and more expedient way of getting through to Langkawi. So this is the part where there's a lot of sedimentation going on, so the dredging has gone a bit over budget and over schedule. So let's not talk about that. Just to tell you that it's important to have dredging going on. Okay, one of the earliest evidence that we have today that dredging was done long time ago, not something that's modern. Leonardo da Vinci, that super genius, he had this in his drawing. In his many notebooks, they found this. So it was never found, meaning that it was probably just a conceptual model. He never built it. The little thing you see here was built by the museum there just to replicate, to show that it could work. So what Leonardo had in mind was really the basis of what we have today in the modern dredges. We'll see later on. He's talking about, look, put the wheel, like those water wheels, and then put scoops on them. So when you scoop into the ground, they'll bring out the mud. And when you have these buckets full of mud coming through, put the barge on the end and collect them. When they're full, move your barge, move in another barge, and go for dumping. So it's simple and effective. So that's just how brilliant these simple ideas are. We had to go with these complex ideas. Just simple things like this will actually work. I repeat, there was no evidence that it was ever built, but when they tried to build it today, it actually worked. And then, in reality, in the 1500s, that was about the time the Portuguese found that we were interesting and useful. They started to invade us, and the Europeans started to see people, or rather the richness of the Southeast Asian, different story. We have dredges that are basic. They have scrapers on them instead of scoops now. All right? And one of the more prominent and famous projects that we know are these going on at the time in Panama Canal. Have a more detailed look later on. What we are seeing here is that you notice that there are these little buckets, right? But they still need a lot of men, a lot of labor to help to push this mud into the way of these chutes coming out, so that the process can be done. So it's half manual and half mechanized there, all right? And coming into the 18th, 19th century, then men become smarter to harness animal power. So the concept is still the same. As you can see, you have a slate, you have a conveyor belt. Now you use animals to move them. No more manually there. And this picture here shows Bremerhaven, friends, colleagues who studied in German. It is a place, it's actually a port city, one of the major port cities in Bremen, in northwest of Germany. And this is a place where dredging was done very massively to create the port city. Because originally, historically, Bremerhaven was a place where the merchants come in for trade purposes in Germany. And this was one of the earliest pictures, the painting that showed this launching of one of the vessels there. And then in the more modern times, when the age of steam dawned in Britain, somewhere in the 19th century, because of the discovery of Watson and also Stephenson. Just by the way, just a quick one, because I graduated from Sheffield, so I got to mention the Industrial Revolution, as powered by the steam industry times, actually started in Sheffield. So that is one thing probably interesting to know. And the dredgers now become mechanized because they have steam to power them. Oh, but the basic concept is still the same. If you notice that, it's still a wheel, a slide, a chain, and the buckets bringing the soil up. This was back in 1895. This is 2021. Look how similar they are. So the slight difference now is that we become more conscious of the environmental impact of dredging. So we start to put enclosure on them. We start to put filters on them so that the dredging can be less damaging. But you may ask, why still dredge if it's so bad? We have no choice. Remember Kuala Police? Remember Kuala Police? Remember all the flooded places? Yeah, so we have no choice actually. This is just showing some more advanced tools being attached to the dredger. It has claws on it, so if you have hard soil, not rocks, hard soil, you could actually break it up and bring the soil up to keep the navigation channels, the navigation canals deep enough for the vessels to come in. So we pause and think. We always talk about infrastructure development supporting the economic growth of a country. What are infrastructures? We have to open up our doors to the outside world. What is opening up the doors? Opening up the doors means trade unions and all. So what is this trading and business about? We have to make sure they can reach us and we can reach out. So there is probably just two ways of doing that economically and effectively, via the seaports or via the air. But the air travel remains expensive, even though we have Air Asia where everyone can fly. It's still costly. We still go by ship, right? That's why the ports remain relevant until the day we can find a way to make flying a cheaper way to travel around the world. I promised to tell you a little bit more about Panama Canal, so here we go. It took, over 30 years to construct, change two contractors, a bit controversial there, but nothing doing with us. Just about 80 kilometers, but a lot of dredging going on. So what actually happened was that they were trying to shorten the distance, totally shorten the distance, create a shortcut between Atlantic Ocean and Pacific Ocean. What are we talking about? You want to connect from New York City to San Francisco, so the east coast to the west coast of the States, right? One whole continent. You will have to go through all the way down the Atlantic Ocean, around the South South America, and come up again. So there is a massive, massive distance to do. So they decided, no, we don't want to do that anymore. Even back then, they were green. They don't want to waste so much of fuel, probably. So they decided to have the canal to cut through the Isthmus of Panama. And that was what happened. They dig a canal big enough. There was already a waterway, a tiny one. So they enlarged it to make sure that the vessels could pass through. So today, we have the Panama Canal that totally saved a lot of time for passengers and also for the goods coming through between the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. And the amount of dredged material that was taken out, 88 million cubic meters. I don't think we can. I can't fathom that. I can't imagine that number. Today, these dredging equipments, the dredgers, have become so advanced. How advanced? They are more precise. High precision meaning what? We cannot afford to have dredger going down and trying to dig up the sediments and hit the oil and gas pipelines, and then we kill the fishes. We can't. And then, of course, the oil and gas industry wouldn't be too happy about it. We also have some utility lines down there. That's why it's dangerous. So this precision is important. Number two, we start to be cleaner. Cleaner meaning that, as I mentioned earlier, we try to minimize the environmental impact of these dredging activities. We put in the seal screen, we put in the enclosure, we have claws that go in, clamps that come out with water, no water dripping out, and things like that. It makes work more tedious, but it does help to make the marine ecosystem less destroyed by us. And last but not least, just as demonstrated by Spartacus, the biggest, most powerful suction dredger that we have today, reported to date, is the one that not only can dig right up to 45 meters deep, normally we go to just 25, 30 meters, it is powered by LNG. So supposedly, quite carbon neutral, not carbon free, quite carbon neutral. So this is the one that we are looking at these days. And of course, the technology is still moving forward pretty quick. And the one thing good about the international dredging community is that they work very closely with the universities. And one of those leading people in this industry is actually the Dutch. I think not surprising, right? They are sinking, so they have to do a lot of dredging there. Yeah, Dr. Karima. Okay. Okay, so this is taken out from the grounds, from the sea. It has to go somewhere, right? It has to go somewhere. Input, output. So where are we going to dump this? Yeah, it's actually dumping. So even to dump, there are specific names for them. That is just how cool they are. If you throw them quietly through the bottom of your vessel, it is called bottom dumping. Okay? If you dump them, spraying them all over the place, like what we usually see, it's called rainbowing. If you do them quietly again, but not so subtle because there are pipelines coming through, it's called pump ashore. Right? So these are the basic technology that is being adopted to dump, to make this dredge material go away. Nonetheless, whichever way you do it, look at it this way. This is the most basic of the dredging mechanism or operations. You have a clamp, drop down, scoop up the soil, the sediments, correct? Put in the barge will go away. Out of sight, out of mind, yeah. Cool, huh? And every country has their own stipulations of how far away from land you have to dump this. And when you dump in the ocean, right, you do not just dump, you got to dig a hole. The law says that you got to dig a hole, and because it's in the ocean, you can't line it like a normal landfill. You can't do that. So as long as there's a hole, okay, dump. After you dump, you got to cover it up. You cap it. But there's water, right? There's water there all the time, and there's current. So it's not easy to be trying to cap something like this, right? So even when it's capped, it has been proven that some contaminants will still come out. Even if you do not have contaminants, you have turbidity. So I think my friends from the hydraulic and water field of research can correct me if I'm wrong, that this turbidity is something that is damaging to the marine ecosystem, right? From the reefs to the fishes to the benthic organism to everyone, even the fishes. Look at it this way. Do we like it when there's smoke around? What we call yearly, we have this thing, jerebu. Do we like it? Do we like to breathe when there's jerebu? We can breathe, but we don't like it. We can feel particles inside our throat and so on and so forth. So we put on a mask, right? Even the 95 mask or even higher, right? Imagine the fishes and those marine organisms down there. They breathe through their gills, right? How would they feel having these particles clogging up their gills, their lungs, literally? The same thing here. But they don't have the advantage or the privilege or the luxury of putting on a mask. Right? But I use straws. I like straws. I'm sorry, I'm not one of those who say don't use straws because it's a bit troublesome to carry a stainless steel straw around and saying that we shouldn't let these straws poke into the noses of turtles, right? That's one case, but yeah. It's just a digression. Sorry. Okay, a quick one. This is a bit of an ironic. Back in 2014 in Britain, need not mention where, some part of the country, there was this river that was always overflowing. So flooding is not something that happens only in Kelantan. Oops, not just in Kelantan, Johor, Malacca, everywhere else. Yeah, it's flooding everywhere. So it's not something that just happens in Malaysia. It is something that happens in somewhere so advanced like in the UK. So when this river was always overflowing, so the government decided, okay, we got to step in and do something about it. What is the easiest way to do? Dredge it. Dredge. So it's deeper, the water won't overflow. Correct? Logic. While we are dredging, why not make it bigger? Right? Wider. So if you're wider, you're deeper, we can last longer. You don't have to dredge so often. When they did that, nice. The water came, the torrential rain came, the rainy season came, there was more flooding. Why do you think so? More flooding than before they dredged the place. What actually happened? I'm sorry, no more prize. You can have my mouse. It's an Iron Man mouse. What happened? You dredge, and yet the flooding has become more severe. Anyone? Yeah, the water now, the flow velocity is slowing down, correct? Because you have a wider area to flow. The cross section is bigger now, simply put. So when you have a bigger cross section, the flow is more, but the flow becomes the velocity is going down. When you go down, more sediments can settle down. So the riverbed becomes shallower faster. So you say, oh, why you are flooding more often? So that was exactly what happened. So sometimes the engineers, now claim to be engineer when it's something bad. So we engineers think that we have a brilliant idea until we do it. That's why we are called practice-oriented. That's why we need FTK. Correct, boss? So Samito, we promote FTK. Okie dokie. And similarly, you don't want to dump in the sea, fine, dump in the land. So this is what happens when you dump in the land. You can do it on land. Landfill, or you do it, create a basin, dig and throw. The thing is that even when you do this, you're still contaminating, right? Remember, whether you put on ground or in the ground, it's still contaminating because most of the soils that are found are actually contaminated. Just to give us an idea how bad this soil is, in Japan, which is literally groups of islands, they need a lot of dredging all year round, right? The dredged material from Japan, the top 1 meter, are not to be dumped in the sea. No dumping in the sea. All right? They'll revoke your license if you do that. So where is this soil going? On land, right? You do not just dump like this. In Japan, they are called CDF, Confined Disposal Facilities. It's not just a line landfill like our domestic or solid waste landfill, yeah, Dr. Tawi, but they are the ones that have concrete lining. Why? Because we are so uncertain of the contaminants coming out. Top 1 meter. Can you imagine that? How much of money is going to be spent just to construct this to keep the soil in? So that leads us to the question of, do we really want to throw them away? They are soil after all. Remember, right from the beginning I tell you, we are talking about from the rocks become the soil goes to the sea, and then we dig up the soil and bring them back to the land. But now they are useless. Oh, they are useless. So that is something to ponder, right? And again, just very quickly, this dredging caused a lot of trouble there, a lot of contamination and all, from the surface to the water column right down to the bottom there. And it has been proven again and again that this damage is permanent, which is scary. I'm not from the environmental engineering sector. I find it's horrible that, for instance, the shellfish, the benthic organisms that live on the seabed, once we do a dredging, because the turbidity remains for a very long time, so they are affected. Remember, we don't like jerabuk, we wear a mask. Even that we don't like it, they have no mask to wear. How would they like it? And then we collect them and we eat them. You eat them, I don't, I'm a vegetarian. So, so irrelevant, sorry. And these vessels, you can't help it when you put machines in the sea, whether we like it or not, a small boat, a small sampan to a big vessel, a big liner, you still have oil spill. You notice that? Any vessels that go on the water always leave some oil leakage. So you can imagine that. All right, so look at this, the amount of things, the amount of damage is going on. If you were 1 little guy staying here, I don't think we'll be very happy there. Okay? And just another proof, not me, this is by some chap, this environmental engineer's report coming out to prove when these are measurements there, whether you are the ones floating around, swimming around, or crawling around in the seabed, they did this dredging, and they found that before, during, and after. Look at that. What is interesting is now, what is worrying is not about the declining line and the slight increase, it's about the permanent reduction. Compare this circled point to the original point. So permanently, they are reduced now. Permanently, they have gone away. Permanently, they have died out. If they could go away, that's fine. But if they died there, that means we are getting less and less organisms there. So remember that this is ecosystem. You have less of these planktons and rotifers and people like this around, less people eating up the extra microbes and germs and stuff like that in the water. They will start to infest the other larger organisms. Get it? Move up the food chain. Who eats them? You guys. I'm a vegetarian, remember? So, for example, so the contaminants eventually will come back to us. That's why we got to be, what's the term? Aware and concerned. Show a little bit of concern on what on this dredging and what we can do about it. Okay? Right. Cool? Still with me? Good. I believe they will pass on chocolates to keep you awake now. No, they didn't bring. I'm so sorry. They forgot that. So, yeah. Right. So now, allow me to take you through some of the works that have been going on for the past decade or so, together with the Marine Department Malaysia. I repeat because ever grateful for the ability, no, for the opportunity rather, to work with them. Without that, no way we could have accessed any of these samples, no way we could have learned that much about these soils. And of course, thanks to the MOSTI, Community Science, for giving me the scholarship to spend 2 years in Japan with the Point Airport Research Institute, where I learned from the Japanese scientists on how to reuse this material. And we hope one day that we too will be like the Japanese. We won't be dumping them in the sea anymore, but be reusing them in a very beneficial way, as we shall see after this. Right, so again, very quickly, dredging is necessary, as we have said there, whether it's to maintain an original existing sea shipping canals or channels. It is also to construct new ones. You can't possibly have a jetty, let alone a port, if you do not do dredging. Am I right? It's like creating car parks or ship park, creating a parking lot for the ship. You can't possibly ask the boat to come in or the vessel to come in if you don't have the depth, right? Yeah, so that's similar thing, right? So in order for that to happen, you need to excavate. Yeah, I think the idea is to excavate in the sea. Yes, to excavate in the sea, because it's so watery, excavate is not very effective. If you have the backhoe dredger, yes, the excavator, that is pretty limited, right? So you want the ones that are like vacuum cleaners. They are called the suction dredger. So literally, they have a chute going down, the dredge arm and drag, and it suck up everything that's down there, including your shellfish, which you eat, I do not eat. So, for example, okay. Right. And then we do the sampling. So those years that we went out to collect the samples, you can probably spot some familiar faces in there. And if we are lucky, it's a clamshell dredger. So it comes up with the clam, we can scoop from there. Very nice, very cool. Sometimes we don't see fishes jumping around. We only see the fish when we see a suction dredger in the hopper. In a big swimming pool, they dump the soil, some fishes will be jumping around there. And then if you are nearer to land, nearer to shore, they give you the backhoe dredger so they can bring up to land, then you scoop it from the backhoe. It's an excavator, right? So this is how they will have looked like in the sea. And yeah, you're right, this is a dredger. So normally, civilians are not allowed on the dredger. It's for safety reasons. And because, as I said, thanks so much to JLM that we could have this opportunity to hop on many of these dredgers, even when the boat broke down, betul, Dr. Anna, and we were stuck on the vessel for hours on end. It was all right. The guys on the dredger were very, very fond of us because they're visitors, so they cook us chucho and make us kopi o. Sailors are amazing cooks. So, so we had a good time out there while waiting for rescue. So that was some amazing experience that we had going out to sea. And as you can see, a lot of times, the soil looked like this. Is that even soil? Or is that ink? Yeah, so that is what we had to deal with. Pretty much more water than soil sediments. Right? If you take a look at the general soil properties, I'm not saying that all dredged soils are like this, but in general, we get stuff like that, ranging from silt to clay, meaning that they are very fine sand that you can barely feel with your fingers, and then to clay, which you definitely cannot feel with your fingers. Why do I say that? If you could feel clay on your skin, you wouldn't be putting, I don't know, all these super masks on your face for beauty purposes. You have having scratches all over the place, right? Right? That's why they sell the mud, the Korean face mask, and they sell it for exorbitant prices. Yeah, they are all clay-sized particles. So fine they can enter your pores. So be careful, maybe doing more harm than good. Yeah. So these are the fine materials that we're talking about. So if we try to imagine how they look like, imagine a paddy field. You go to a paddy field, you try to scoop up the soil. You like that? I don't think so. So yeah, that's the kind of soil we are talking about. So imagine if we, ordinary folks, we don't like it. What about the contractors and developers? Surely they wouldn't want to play with this kind of soil in their construction. What do they like? What do they like? We talk about it, the red color stuff. The red color stuff, the tanah merah. Those are the grade 1 stuff that we like for construction. Some elemental study on it. What I'm trying to show here is that they are not much different from what we have on the land, the soil. So they come from here, they still retain what they have, or retain their characteristics as the soil that they originally were. If anything, what we found was that along the years is that if the place was contaminated, then you start to find certain strangers in there, plumbum, some mercury, stuff like that. We had this one case, need not mention where, we found traces of heavy metals, not to mention what heavy metals, it can cause an alarm. And then we traced back along that river upstream, there were many car painting plants, car painting. And then we found that this particular heavy metal is very much used in the car paint. So for example, we don't know, right? I mean, it's inadvertently, not purposely, not intentionally. Nobody wanted to spill heavy metal in the river. Nobody wants to do that. But, unintentionally. Yep. And now just to take you through some of the works that have been going on in our labs for the past decade. Not all, the ones that I can squeeze in here, so I hope it won't bore you and you find them interesting. This is the one that we try to fiber reinforce the soil, pop in some fibers into the clay, and hoping that it will kind of strengthen it to a certain extent. Why do we do that? So that this material, the soil, can be reused like for backfill material, for creating artificial land, which we see it is not something new. People have been doing a lot out there, maybe not us yet. And just to summarize some major bits from this study is that when we are trying to mix this soil, which is already so wet and soggy beyond the liquid limit, times over the liquid limit, meaning that more water than the sediments, you want to mix them up with some binders like cement or lime or whatsoever they are to strengthen it or to dry up and then to strengthen it. You've got to make sure that the water binder ratio is the right one. So if there's too much water, 2 liter binder is like putting glue into a bowl of water. Nothing is going to happen. So you got to make sure your glue is more than the water, then something is going to happen, right? But we have so much of glue, tubs and tubs of glue going to one bowl of water, who would want to use that method? So that is where the balance come in. And as you can see here, this picture, not a CT scan, just a surface picture of things. You can see that when you have different water content coming in, you have different mixing quality. The mixed quality is very important. If you don't want to be forming soil down there, make a ground, an island, for example, that has a lot of little holes in it. You don't want that, right? You want something that looks pretty perfect, no holes. That's why I repeat myself, the water ratio, the water content is very important here. And then these fibers, what do? I think is readily imaginable. When the soil starts to fail, and all soils fail in the shear, they will hold this soil together. It will not stop the failure, but it gives us a longer warning time. That's all. It buys us time. You don't want to have something that collapses immediately and you don't have time to say hello, right? You want to have something like, oh, hello, it is coming down, let's run away. So you want the warning. So that is a lot about a soil that we didn't understand about these slope failures and slope safety and all. It is not really so much about not wanting them to come down. It's really about if it should come down, it does not come down suddenly, right? And next, we take a look at this. This was done by Dr. Anna for her PhD work, excellent work there. It's about trying to incorporate 3 waste material into one. The dredged marine soil is already a waste, right? They are dumping away. So she tried to incorporate another 2 civil engineering common waste, the recycled asphalt from the road maintenance works, and also from the palm oil clinker coming off from the many palm oil refineries around here. So why these 2 materials? As you can look at the picture over there, because they look very much like normal crusher rocks. Right? I'm not saying they are rocks, I'm saying they look like rocks, right? And they have similarities like rocks. So of course, they are not as strong as rocks, but we are not using them for strength purposes. We are using them as a drainage layer instead of maybe sand and things like that. So we're trying to reuse the material. So very quickly, this consolidation takes place so that your super soggy, super wet dredged marine soil can be removed of the water. Once the water is out, then we can start stepping on it. Right? If you can't even step on it, you're like swimming on it, your machines cannot go in. Machines cannot go in, no piling, no foundation, no nothing. You try to dump soil, the soil will disappear, like what Dr. Ismail was saying this morning. If you come across very soft material, you don't put the separator geotextile, then whatever you dump in is going to disappear. Until you top out to the layer where you consolidate the soil and then the material start to be supported, or you actually dump so much that it actually displaces the original material, like what we saw in Cebu in Kuching years ago about this pit soil, and then you have your own ground. So we don't want that to be happening. That's why the consolidation is important. So if you have double drainage, meaning that top and bottom layer of your clay, you allow the water to discharge, then you have saved half the time roughly. But if you have single layer, the bottom bit is raw, or you put an impermeable layer, liner or things like that, then you are talking about a longer time. But the settlement will still be the same. All right, that's the idea. And if we are to plot the pore pressure, meaning that when we pop a load onto a soil which has water in it, first to take the load is actually the water, right? Because it's more compressible. It's not the soil. The soil is a solid. So the water takes the load. The water will build up the pressure. If I were to put 1 ton on the soil, the 1 ton is in the water, not the soil. And what will happen? The pressure will increase. So the pressure increase in the water in the soil voice, the water will try to find escape route. You are stressed, what do? You try to de-stress, right? Some people binge eat, some people go for a run, some people sing. So do whatever we like. Some people play with dinosaurs. So yeah. For example, yep. And this pore pressure will dissipate over time. As the pressure is being taken out from the water goes away, the load now goes to the soil particles, goes to the solid. So in the end, your pressure goes back to zero. Thanks to Dr. Ismail, Prof. Tamizi, who taught me this in undergraduate years. Took me a long, long time to understand this. Until my PhD time, you won't believe it. So that is just how dim I am. Yeah, very long time to understand. Next bit of work by my student, Tamira, was about creating geosorbent, a passive one, as leachate pond liner in landfills. So what can happen is that you see a lot of these everywhere, not to mention just Malaysia, everywhere. When the landfills are not quite engineered, meaning that they are just a hole we dig, we dump our rubbish in there. But by right, we should be lining them. And right, Chimbun? You got to line it properly and put in, and Tatana will know, put in all the necessary piping and all to make sure that anything that leaks out because of the biodegradation of the waste is going somewhere and not into the groundwater, we pump and we drink super spring water, and then we fall sick. Right? So that is what we don't happen. Oh, a little bit more worrying is that we can line the landfill, but there is still this pipe that brings the excess water out. They call it the leachate pond. There's a pond away from the landfill. That is a toxic pond. There's a pond where they collect all the juicy bit, the juice rather, of the rubbish. And this pond needs to be carefully designed and lined so that the leachate does not leach down into the groundwater, into the river, into your crops, and you eat super nice jagung, super nice rambutan or whatsoever, and it's carcinogenic, right? Got it, cool. So this is what we have been trying to examine. If we could replace the normal liners, which are maybe costly to some small-time landfill operators, by using our dredged marine soils, which is natural, a natural habitat for some of the microbes to eat away at these stuff in there, so that if there should be any leaching happening, then the water that leach out is not so dangerous anymore. So simply put, it's like this. And what we found was that when you do it, I just pick out one particular one that's interesting, is that the microcosm that we produce, it looks like this. We have sediments down here with the microbes in there, and this is the leachate, the real leachate that we collected from some of these landfills, not to mention where. And when we pop it in there, and of course we have the variables, the temperature, the pH, the nutrients, blah, blah, blah. Not bore you with that. And we found that, yes, you see, if once you do that, the microbes would rather go into the sediments, into the DMS, than to hang around in the water. So everybody likes to be resting and chillaxing all the time. You get it? Yeah. Oh, what we are seeing in the graph here is that the water here, the leachate here rather, we call it the LS, right? It's the same level as original content in the leachate, but in the soil, it is a lot cleaner now. So that is what we were trying to do with this study, making a passive geosorbent. And very quickly, we look at trying to electrocute the soil now. So this is, remember we said it's super wet. So you're so wet, first thing first, remove your water. So this was what Kira has done, and Shuko, she has recently submitted her corrected thesis. So she'll be hopefully wearing this year in. So if you are watching Kira, well done. And some graphs coming out. Basically, what we're seeing here is that as the water is being removed, then your strength will be increasing. So that is logical. So the trick is how much of water to remove is enough. You can't be waiting forever. You are not going to create a thick, super stiff soil. You just want it to be stiff enough so they can put the building or road or whatever I want to put on it, and it doesn't sink. That's all I wanted to do. That's the thing about balancing the time and the design purpose that we want. And you can see here that what she experimented with is that she tried to change the electrolytes. So electrolysis, electrolytes. And she played with some of these salts and all. So they found that some are more effective than the other. And to bring this to the field, all right, the question will really be not so much about environmental concern, because these are pretty inert stuff. Probably Dr. Nora can testify to that for me. It's more about the costing of it, because to do this on a very large scale, just like what they did for the vacuum pre-consolidation thing, the cost of energy to bring in the electricity could be too high and not quite optimizing the operations itself. So that is something to look into later on. And the second part of this study was about solidification. So this is more straightforward. We pop in some cement, we try to make the soil drier and stiffer than before. And then finally, we try to examine if these sediments were actually contaminated, say with plumbum, which is pretty common, worryingly common, right? Probably from the batteries that we like to chuck around these days, from our rechargeable batteries to the ones that are non-rechargeable. So these plumbum thingy are a lot in the sediments, and if you could trap them up during solidification, so that is actually good. So that was what we were examining. And at one point, we tried to simulate the real condition where you use these treated dredged marine soils as a foundation, a replaced soil of a place. So she simulated this in a model, and we found that yes, monitoring and measuring the plume that were coming around, and you could see that both methods could actually limit the amount of plumbum that's being leached out from these sediments, if we know the sediments are contaminated. So if they are not contaminated, it's a plus. If they are contaminated, at least we have done something to safeguard the situation, right? Okay, this is, I promise you, last but not least, and it's the most mind-boggling. I purposely put it in so that you will wake up a bit. All right, I promise you, this is coming the last bit of the results. This is actually a very ancient setup that I had during my PhD days. It was a band element test, so we try to, if we don't electrocute the soil, these are body waves, so you just pop in this transistor, top and bottom transistor, receiver, send the waves in, and if the stiffer the soil is, the faster the wave will travel. Simple as that. Just I'm talking to you here, Chimbun in front of me, and Nana will hear me very loudly, probably Dr. Joe at the back, Dr. David will hear me not so loudly, if not because of the mic, right? But because of the mic, you hear me all around. This is surround, right? They call, right? So that is about the energy of the waves. And what we found was that soil, being a non-homogeneous and something that has a lot of a mixture of stuff in there. Basically, you have the solid, you have the liquid, and then you have the air. So they disturb the propagation of the waves. And once these waves are being disturbed, it's not so easy anymore to try to discern where is the arrival time. Simple as a theory may seem, it is not so simple when you try to interpret it. And the long and short of it is that we did some dispersion studies, and then we found that, yeah, look, there are certain things you need to abide by in running the experiment so that your data is reliable. Among these is that the size of the sample. It cannot be too tiny that you confine the wave. In other words, if your sample are too narrow, you put in the waves are hitting on the boundaries and hitting back. So you're getting reflections and refractions, so you don't want that. So it has to be big enough, yeah. And how big it is, so that was a study, what the study was about. So why bother to talk about this? Because that was a precursor to what we later on have when I came back from Sheffield to start up in the lab in recess. So we had this system that was only in the box by GDS. No more so many parts I showed earlier on with the amplifier, with the function generator, with the oscilloscope. No, it's just one box and a computer. So we have this and set up in an odometer, and we put in the EC transistor as well to measure stuff. So what we found was that with DMS, with the dredged marine sediments, again, the behavior is similar to like any other soils that we find online, probably an artificial one like kaolin. And the wave velocity, which depicts the stiffness of the material, will actually increase. It goes faster. The wave will travel faster when your soil is drying up and your soil is becoming stronger. And when you try to put them into scrutiny to see the relationship between them, you find that the good thing about using the band element to test the soil is that it's pretty much non-destructive. You poke on both ends, you don't destroy the soil. So if I want to know this piece of soil, I add in so much of cement, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. What is a strength increment? I don't have to keep crushing the sample. I have one, I can keep testing them. So I take away the inconsistency of things. I take away the possibility of having errors in preparing a sample. One sample, test forever. So that is the nice part about having this kind of test. Right? Yep. Okay, so the boring bits are gone. Now is a more fun bit. So it's like going on a roller coaster. I hope that was the valley of the valley. So even I'm sweating talking about it. Right? Okay, where do we go from here? Again, I'm from FTK, Faculty of Engineering Technology. We are a little bit unlike FCUP, Civil Engineering Faculty. I got to make sure that, no, we have to make sure that our students understand, not you are not students, you're experts, more expert than me. You got to make sure that our graduates know how to apply what we have taught them out there. So that's why the application bit is very, very important. Betul tak, Putri? So here we go. We always relate to the SDG now. If we don't talk about SDG, it's like we are living in a cave these days, which is not very nice. And by reusing this dredge material, we are actually fulfilling quite a few. I just simply pick them. If you like, you can also pick others, okay? I'm lying, it's not true. We're actually working with Dr. Anna on this later on to see how we can score points with the SDG. So this material, dredge material, bring them up. If you don't throw them away, and from the research we have done, you can actually use them. You could use them to make roads, the road foundation, right? Especially the coastal roads need not import, literally import soil from very far places so that you can have a good ground to lay your roads. You can even convert them because they are clay, fine grain stuff. We make bricks, one of the most ancient building materials around. And you can make non-fire bricks actually, putting in a stabilizer or the binders there. Of course, this is typical. When you have erosion going on, we can't help it. We say whether it's climate change or whether it is global warming, it doesn't matter. The truth remains our shorelines are being damaged these days. So we like it or not, we got to keep them safe. We got to rehabilitate them. We got to repair them. To repair them, something like this. Look at that. Somewhere in Malaysia, no need to mention where. What are we going to do? Put in armors? Yeah, who is going to fund the armors, the big rocks? What else do we do? All sorts of technologies out there, totally effective but costly. Right? So not everyone, not every project, not every district has got the funds to do that. Right? So we need to see, that's why we need to explore ways that we can help to solve this problem at the minimal cost, using local materials, using local expertise if we could. Similarly, on this picture on the right-hand side, remember we talked about the fiber reinforced soil? Yeah. So this could be used to strengthen this backfill at the, for retaining structures. Then we could reduce the wall structure that is used to retain these raised structures. And this is a piece of work that is ongoing together with Dr. Anna and the students. We're doing praxis simulations to see what will happen when we change the inclination of the wall, change the density of the material and all, based on all these innovations going on with the soil there. And next, we have these GeoWebs, again, incorporating whatever that's out there in the industry, and we try to see if we could put in our dredged marine soil just like any other soils. And I would like to draw your attention to the last bit here, this. This is not mine, this is new, this is very, very old. These are the Roman concrete. Ever wonder how the Colosseum is still around? Ever wonder how these Roman roads are still around? Everywhere in the UK, in the Europe, everywhere else they have been, the roads are still there. Because they master the idea of cementation, and today they found that these structures are still around because the Romans found the idea of creating self-healing cement. Self-healing. So this lime crust purposely left in there, the bright yellow thing in there, in this image. These are the things that left behind, unactivated lime. If there's a crack in the concrete, water goes in, right? So water will damage our concrete. It reaches this lime, the lime will react and form this cementatious stuff and seal up the hole. So that is why the Roman structures lasted so long. And just take it a little bit further, the Colosseum. We know Colosseum is a place where the gladiators fight, right? But we also probably may not quite know that Colosseum is also a place where they have boat fight, right? They fight on water. They fill the place with water, like a swimming pool, and they start fighting on it. And they found it was a legend. It was a legend, but they tried to prove it. And they actually proved it by finding that the base, the foundation of this Colosseum was actually having this bituminous kind of material that is a dam-proof membrane. So there was that superb, the civil engineering skills that the Romans had. So I guess it's not too far off if we were to say these Romans can be put on the pedestal and say one of the earliest and greatest civil engineers around who have got their structures lasting until today, really. So, yeah. Reclamation works. Remember, talk about this logistic, right? If we are going to take the soil from the sea and you're going to bring them all the way into the somewhere in the middle of nowhere and to build it, the logistic is not quite appropriate. It doesn't balance out the finance bit of things. But if we are to create things near the place where the dredging happens, like creating new islands, like creating new runways, like what the Japanese did with the Haneda Airport, it used to be, because this happened in 2010, for the Haneda Airport, the expansion of the runway D, it was the most beloved engineering feat of the Japanese. You would ask the Japanese, what is your favorite thing in the country now? Haneda Airport. Because of this amazing, amazing engineering feat. What they did was that, very quickly, if you could look at this image here, This is the original Haneda Airport, Greater Tokyo. You see this Tama River, big river coming out. They wanted the runway here. You probably ask, why don't you just do it here? They can't. They can't, because this is actually a shipping route. So it has to be here. If it is here, you notice one thing, it is going to come right in the middle of the river mouth. And we know, never put anything at the river mouth. Am I right? You're blocking the flow, you're going to cause a lot more sedimentation, and you need more dredging. We don't want that to happen. So the amazing thing that they did was that this part of the runway, yes, make an artificial island. Use the dredge material, pump it through, and create this ground which is cemented. So you create an island like plasticine. Nice, and then we build our road. So that was what happened. Of course, they did some PVDs to make sure it's been pre-consolidated. That part that's in front of Tama River are sitting on lakes. These are no ordinary lakes. These are no ordinary lakes. The piers are made of a kind of special stainless steel, and these stainless steel have got sensors in them. They are hollow and they are air conditioned. I repeat myself, they're air conditioned. So why they need to be air conditioned? So that the sensors can work precisely, correctly. And how precise are we talking about? Well, we're talking about runway, right? We cannot afford to have a little bump. These are aeroplanes coming down. It's not our car can go through a bump and it's okay. The aeroplanes will bump off into the sea. So it cannot happen, right? So what happened is this. 13 years down the road, they monitored the settlement. It was supposed to be here, right? The reality is it has gone down roughly, supposedly about 7.5, it has gone down to almost 6. So about 1 meter apart roughly on average, right? It's a meter more. But the thing of it, wow, you create a whole island out of nowhere in the middle of the sea, it's already considered very good in 10 years' time. So the ultimate thing is that you got to top up more. You see the top bit? So that is all. Nothing, no problem, no damage done. That is why they need the piers to be carefully monitored. They are not settling there. Right? So that was what happened. And Tama River is flowing happily. The river is not complaining. No extra sedimentation, no extra dredging works. So we did not hear Tama River mouth dredging bursting the budget into the news, unlike us, right? Okay. And this has been emulated by many. And more recent years, we have the Hong Kong International Airport, one of the busiest airports in the world, not just Asia, in the world. And they expanded their airport by 100%. By 100%. And it's just that the engineering feat is more emulating the Japanese, totally cement mixing, right? Totally cement, no special piers, and now because there's no Tama River there, in the middle of the sea, so safe, right? They did that, emulating what the Japanese did, and it's done in 2022. Okay, if I do not wrap up this, we will go to tomorrow's breakfast. So now I'm standing between you and your lunch, or your brunch, or your breakfast, so just a little bit more. We are getting to the end now. Just like the Twilight Saga, the Star Wars saga, the Harry Potter saga, everything must have a prequel and sequel. You don't want me to talk about prequel now, you want a sequel now, right? So this is coming to the end of it. Well, the geotechnical industry, what are we to do? People like me, I'm not a real engineer, I'm just a lecturer, I'm just a teacher at the base of it, like I always tell my students. And what can we do actually for the industry in general? This is one of the more, the latest thing that we have done together with my colleague, Dr. Zenita and Dr. Alina. We say about multidiscipline, cross-discipline. So we did this just before the year was out last year, Syukur, it was done. We published this in the CIDB Smart Portal. And very quickly, we wrote this in the context of the general construction industry in the country. But actually, considering that geotechnical engineering is a subset of the civil engineering industry, this is actually applicable. So what we are saying here is that we have got to start changing. Right, we've got to start changing the way we work. And what kind of change? These kind of change are not little steps, minor steps. No, it cannot be like this anymore. It has to be transformational, not transformer, it's a transformational thing. Yeah. So these transformational steps are things that are going for larger, impactful, and really future-ready changes. If we don't, we'll be left behind. So we'll be left behind. We can't do that. And it is very important that we in the university realize that, because we are one of the ones that are playing the major role. We are the learner institutions. If we do not educate our future generation to learn about this future-ready market, about future-ready skills, about predicting what's going to happen in future, what they need to know now, even though it is not in the syllabus, Even though we make them come for extra classes, we make them go for extra site visits, they got to understand and embrace it for the good of themselves and the nation, actually. So that is the gist of what we're trying to do here, to make us all realize, right? Make us all realize that the university has a very, very important role to play. It doesn't mean that we do not have the funds to buy the latest toy, the latest equipment. We don't have the most advanced scans. We don't have the most, we don't always have these readily available reagents for us to do run our tests and so on and so forth. We cut across the faculties, borrowing and loaning each other stuff. We still don't have enough. Then you see, sometimes we have to go as far as UTM or USM to borrow equipment or share equipment. Still, it is very tough, but it's necessary. It is totally necessary. The more limited resources we have, then the more sharing we need to do. So hopefully, that is the future of what we academicians can be doing together with our industrial friends. So coming to the end of it, I am truly not blowing my own trumpet. I understand that I need to show this, otherwise you wouldn't be very happy for me wasting your time here. So thank you to the university, thank you to everyone here and not here, academic, non-academic, my students and all, for all these collaborations, works coming in from outside, and also some are from abroad. I especially like the work that I have with Sheffield. Yearly, we have this engineer, you are hired program. So we are considered the industry people from the outside. We are the alumni, and we could judge the students' works. And it's very exciting because these kids are like year 1, year 2, and the ideas they come out with are just amazing. It's like out of the world. And then you start to ask them some questions. Oh yeah, it cannot quite work. And we actually did this in our own project with Dr. Anna, or in our own soil mechanics class in FTK. We try to incorporate these ideas, bring in the industry, Iron Asvisa and all, to help us to evaluate the students' work and to advise them, as Chimbun all has done for the past many, many years. And we found that it actually better prepared the students for the job market. And well, we as teachers, right, I did say that it's not always about the grades, especially after the PKP, during the PKP, after PKP, even after the PKP now, we find that sadly to say, I mean, the mental cases, right? Not mental health. Mental health is on decline in the country. We are one of the worst hit, in fact, surprisingly, somehow. And we are more attached to our phone than to anybody else in the world now, which is a little bit worrying. And so I would thank you to the university for the opportunity at the time, as actually as a task for my professorial probation, that I was to do something to reach out to the students. And thank you to the faculty, especially the HEPA unit at the time, for allowing me to do this. And I recorded myself, and out of nowhere I became a YouTuber. And I started this Thinking Lab, the Thinking Out Loud series. So every day I record myself for no more than 10 minutes with some slides telling the students, we can survive this, we can do this. And well, we never know, it's a ripple effect. I did it for my own class, actually, and then it expanded to the faculty, expanded to the university, expanded to other polytechnics, expanded to other people in other places. And then I started receiving positive responses, saying, wow, I'm looking forward to what you're saying tomorrow. So it kind of like made you keep going. And then it says that you reach out to students, and it said it keeps them positive, not seeing their friends, not having an easy time trying to understand things online, especially trying to learn on technical subjects and all. So that just, blossom into this, and I think that was an amazing experience and opportunity. And couldn't be here without all of you. Couldn't be here. So, especially my dear students, I think it's not too much to say. Without you, there's no me. Without you, it's no me. And the time we spent together, the best part of being a lecturer, really, one of the best parts is that to have these dear students around. And it's always very hard to let them go. I think that's the thing. It's very hard to let them go. And see some teachers there now. My first starfish. Oh, that was cool. That's a live one. We brought it back, Anna, but it died, remember? We didn't get to catch any seahorses. We got the starfish. Yeah. Oh, that was what we have done. And we hope that this will keep going on until the time comes to stop, or whether it's officially to stop or the time is up and we stop. So, and finally, got to put some words to papers. I got some books being done. Did this for FTK before the students even came in. So thank you very much, UTHM, for giving me the opportunity to write up this book, so that the students could have a layman's version of what ground improvement is about. Just last year, managed to get this out after a few years of doing it, is trying to write a book on dredging in BM so that students could understand it better, and to hope that the understanding of dredging. I said it is being linked up to climate change and so on and so forth. So we all are responsible about that. So it's the first in the country apparently. So I didn't say I'll do it because it's the first. I didn't know until it was published literally. And last but not least, I owe this to my IGS, the Malaysian chapter of Geosynthetic Society, our president, Prof. Chimbun, Anna on the committee and all. 3 days ago, the publisher informed me it's out now. Yeah, I'll give you the link soon now. So the book is out. Again, the first technical compilation that we have. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And so the end is finally here. So we always end by dropping a long list of paper. I don't have a long list of paper. I can only say that no matter how I say it, I can never thank you enough. So first and foremost, I thank my teachers. I thank my teachers who are here, who are online, who may not be here anymore. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for teaching me selflessly, for teaching me not just about the knowledge, not just about sharing the knowledge, about becoming a human being, becoming a decent human being. And I thank all my intrepid, brave students who joined this journey with me, roller coaster. It's not easy to be with me. Am I right, Anna? Yes or no? These are adventures, so thank you very much. My dear friends, FTK, JTKA, FCOP, Recess, everywhere else, thank you very much for keeping my feet firmly planted on earth. My beloved family, the inner circle, the outer circle, you know who you are, for accepting me for who I am and to love me no matter how soiled I become. And of course, last but not least, the faculty, the university, every single one in the university whom I have directly dealt with or indirectly dealt with, whom I have a very bad grasp of names. I know the face, I don't know the name. I'm so sorry. But thank you very much for making this happen, for putting me here. You should be here, not me, actually. I'm just a representation of you. Yeah. And last but not least, you always ask the speaker, so well, your last words, better say something and get off the stage. We have got enough with you, so got to say something here. I guess the truth is that along the way, is that really it's like ashes to ashes, earth to earth. All the pain, all the tears, all the stumbles, all the disappointment, all the hurt that we can feel, it will all go away. It will all go away. In a way, in a very probably abstract and yet very true way, is that just let dunya be. Just let dunya be. Everything will be all right. Everything will be all right. At the end, it's the end that matters. So, with that, I thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you.
All right, abundant thanks to our honorable speaker for the second series of Syarahan Perdana 2024, Professor Insinyur Dr. Chee Ming. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, the floor is now open to the audience for question and answer sessions. So if you would like to ask any questions, the mic is ready for you. And also for those who are watching live in our YouTube channel, you're also encouraged to also pose any questions to Prof. Chan. Yeah, any question from the floor? Or is it you're too laser focused to that tiny T-Rex is still there?
It's still there.
Yeah,
It's
I
there.
think that they're still focusing on that T-Rex.
But I'll keep
Any
it.
questions? Okay, any questions from the floor? So currently, means like for live YouTube right now, so no questions. I wonder, Prof, why?
They fallen asleep. They fallen asleep.
No, I don't think that they fall asleep. I think that more. It means when you want to offer the price for that tiny little T-Rex when they ask questions, probably.
Not that one. It's a limited edition. I only have one.
Just for your information, yeah. That one is not to be let go. Okay. All right. Any questions from the floor? No. Oh, okay. There's one question there from our gentleman there.
Salam, Doctor.
Just 1, 2.
Still not for owning up.
Let me repeat the questions. Actually, I was inspired by the T-Rex just now. Talking about the T-Rex, you're talking about what we call it, the fossil, and then to the earth itself. And normally, when we are talking about the fossil, we always relate to the forensic technology inspired by the soil. And itself, the soil itself will be always related to the carbon dating. Right. So from your perspective, Prof. Chan, if let's say someone is proposing the carbon dating to re-engineer any decision that related to maybe a structure or maybe to the soil structure, how effective it will be if, let's say, we look it from the academic perspective. Of course, the carbon dating itself is a scientific tools or scientific solution for our problem.
Thank you very much, Dr. Andrew, for the question. I don't know. No, I definitely am not the best person to be answering this question on carbon dating. I'm not a paleontologist, while I dream to be one. Nonetheless, I try to answer that from my point of view, Doctor, if you don't mind. And most probably I'm wrong, so please clarify with somebody else after this, because I'm just answering for what I know, right? So now, carbon dating is a technique that remains today not accurate, but in the ballpark of accuracy, we are okay with it because we are talking about the error margin of thousands of years. Then 1 or 2 years difference is not going to make a lot of difference there, right? So if we are trying to ascertain, especially an old building, right, and we are not so sure that whether it's going to come down or is there some movement, and we are not sure whether it's going to stand around, and then we want to preserve it, and then we want to do something next to it, and we don't know whether that's all right or not, right? Something along the lines in civil engineering works. So we want to know whether it is okay to do something by doing carbon dating. I guess in this case, you'll probably be looking at using carbon dating to date the actual material itself that was used to construct the building. As for the foundation, a lot of this foundation, Doctor, I mean, if it is not very old, I mean, the little experience in Malaysia is that, like the KTMB depot in the, what's the name of the place? Sentul area, yeah. It was built during the British times, in fact, before the British times, and when they dig it up, they're trying to refurbish the place. The superstructure was there, right? They threw away all the outer walls, so the structure was there. They wanted to reuse it. So the question now is that whether the foundation could take it or not. So they did some pit excavation, they did some excavation, and saw down there. They couldn't drop any more piles in there because there was already a foundation to the existing building. And those foundations were actually strip footings, step strip footings made of bricks. So this is a place where, wow, those bricks, the most they are just about 100 years old, but still, if we go any deeper, and if that foundation is sitting on some kind of weathered rock formation, then maybe I think maybe we would want to know how old are those rocks. Then we can classify those rocks to know from the database roughly what kind of strength range we are looking at, to know whether we need to drop further more other foundations, strengthen the existing foundations or not. That is something I think of. But other than that, I'm sorry, Doctor, that is probably beyond my knowledge there. So sorry about that. Yeah, just some sharing. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the floor? Yeah, it proves that they are really eyeing on that T-Rex.
You're eyeing on the lunch.
All right, so I guess that's it, Prof. All right, okay. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Okay, so before we conclude, but before that, okay, again, we would like to express our deepest gratitude to our speaker, the Honorable Professor Insigne Dr. Chee Ming, for sharing her precious knowledge and expertise with us today. And may her words enlighten all of us here to be more flourishing in the near future. Okay, in the future, sorry. So ladies and gentlemen, before we conclude this event, we would like to invite the Honorable Professor, Teknologist, Dr. Hajah Roziati binti Ibrahim, Chairperson of Majlis Professor University, accompanied by Insigne Technologist Dr. Kamaruzaman bin Musa, to present a certificate and token of appreciation to Professor Insigne Dr. Chee Ming, our invited speaker. Please welcome.
Okay, Prof, I kept time. Terima kasih, Prof. kasih. Terima kasih, Prof. Terima kasih. Thank you.
Okay, many thanks to Professor Teknologi Dr. Hajar Roziati binti Ibrahim. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the second series of Syarahan Perdana 2024. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to express our highest gratitude to all invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, for being part of this event and looking forward to see all of you here again in the near future. With that, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.